Welcome back to Cre-Art. My name is Regina Swan, and for today, I shall be your host. And this is my co-host, Dylan. Say hi, Dylan.
Hi everyone, my name is Dylan. Nice to see you guys again, and I shall be your co-host for today's talk.
Alright, and for this marvelous afternoon, Dylan and his team actually managed to get the creative group head managing a creative team in Zeno Group. Zeno Group is a global integrated communication agency born from PR. He's a strategic storyteller who has experience in handling execution ranging from conceptual designs and ideas, project managing, concert, events, to building corporate identity and branding. But his main focus, is digital integrated campaigns and, on the side, inventing fresh campaign solution. He strongly believes in playing as hard as you work and lives by the mantra, to be inspired is great, but to inspire is incredible. Let's invite to our virtual stage Mr. Ayisy.
Hello, hi everyone.
Hi.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Yes, we can.
Hi, perfect. Okay.
Alright, I heard that you have some slides to be sharing with us.
Yes, indeed I have.
Yay.
Okay, so you can start the
Okay.
screen session.
Okay, start now, yeah? Alright, cool. Alright, hello everyone. My name is Ayisy, and yes, you can call me Ayisy, And today I'll be sharing with you in terms of the topic of what makes a good creative, right? So have you guys sharing my screen already now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sharing already, right? Okay. So, a quick brief about myself. Thank you for the introduction, and I think thank you for the invitation as well. I'm pretty excited to share with you my knowledge and my experience in the industry for more than a decade now, right? So I consider myself a multidisciplinary creative professional, right? But currently, I just quit Zeno Group, and currently I'm working at a digital-first experiential marketing agency called Cake Experiential Communication Asia as the creative director. So I consider myself as well, I'm an advocate learner, right? And I apply to my daily life, to my career as well, and I teach creativity and productivity. And yes, this photo was taken last year, okay? And it's pretty new, okay? So let's go and dive into the main core of things, right? So to start the work in the creative space, okay? I would like to plug an information and a quote from Simon Sinek, right? So here it is. So before you even start to craft a creative work, right? Be it a campaign, or design a poster, design a logo, or whatever, right? So you need to always understand the why. Okay, what means like the tangible stuff, right? The product or the services or the job that functions, right? It provides the tangible stuff, proof of your purpose, right? And then when you go down a little bit deeper into it, right? So you have the how, right? So the how is the action that takes to realize the why, okay? So the why here is basically the purpose itself, right? The purpose or the cause or the belief behind what you're doing, right? So as a designer, as a marketer, as an advertiser, right? So before even I go down into crafting the work for client and brands, right? I always ask why. So I think, from the inside out. Why? Because, right? People don't buy what you do, right? I just want to set the stage here, right? When clients out there or brands out there looking for your, services or your consultants as a designer, marketer and advertiser, right? We all know that people, don't really buy what you do, right? But they buy why you do it. And that's why, with this, right, it is simply to prove that, what you believe. So you always start with why, right? I plugged this out actually from Simon Sinek itself, okay? So with that, right, if you go down to application itself, right, making your way to find the why, right? So over the years, I think, what makes a good creative is these three connected purposes to make up the whole thing. Okay, so this is what I believe as well, and why I tell my designer, my art director, my senior art director, right, and even my copywriter, right, you need to be able to have these three, So the first one, is always thinking, right? So the think is all about, planning, right? And the second one is all about the craft itself. So that's your product for you to sell, right? And last, to perform and pitch the idea to client and to the people, to the end user itself. Okay, so let's go through all these three components one by one. Okay, and then we'll discuss along the way if we can. Any questions that you guys have, right? I think you guys can poke me. It's not it's a two-way conversation, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
it is.
so we go. Yeah, if you guys have any question, right, just poke me. Okay, so
All right.
let's go with think, right? It's all about planning. So as a designer, again, as a creative, right, I need to be able to justify my idea, because this is what I see from a lot of young designers out there, right? It's hard for them to justify their idea because they haven't started with the think, right? The planning before you go into sketching and drafting and eventually design the piece of communication, right? So what I'm saying here is mindset matters, right? Again, to set the stage, right? Whenever you've given a task, right, to do, you always remember that don't look at it as in one lens. Look at a multiple lens, right? So if you don't change the way you look at things, right, and the things you look at also won't change. So that's why when you change the way you look at things, right, the things you look at change. So I think Earl Gilson has a good, I actually plugged this out when I listen to podcasts from the future, right? So he talks about how, he, throughout his course of life, right, for the past 44 years, right, he thought about business management, entrepreneurship, leadership, all in creative, right? He always look at things in a different way. So that's when he can actually make a difference in someone's life, right? So with that, right, I think how to do this, right? So of course there's a method to this, right? And I always believe when you want to lead, when you want to lead, you need to read, right? And Harry Truman also said, right, not all readers are leader, but all leaders are reader. It is true, okay? Because my point here, again, is to be able to connect all the dots. So if you don't read, if you don't have knowledge, right, it's hard for you to connect all these dots. Okay? So how do you connect the dots? Okay? So in my sphere, right, as a creative, right, the brief is always important. Okay? So that's why you need to have an eye, for the objective itself, right? So again, if you're given a task, right, so you need to be able to identify and, zoom in sharp on the objective. So is it either to introduce a new brand, or product or services, or the objective is to promote or encourage app downloads, or is it to increase market share of voice, right, more sales? So this will trickle down to your execution itself. Okay, always go back to the brief, which is the objective itself. Okay, and most importantly, and this is what I observe also in the market, right, when it comes to young talents, you guys lack research. Okay, even sometimes myself also, I remind myself, right, before I'm super excited to get on board and there's all ideas coming out and stuff or not, right? But you always need to take a step back, right, and do research, right? With this, the research, just imagine your research, right, it's like your bullet. Okay, and why is it important? Because with all this research, right, you will find pain points, right? You'll find obstacles. You'll find people have this challenge of oh, I don't know how to do this. Oh, with this product, actually, it can improve your life, So that's why you want to turn obstacles into opportunities. Okay? So with that opportunity, right, how do you identify an insight? Okay? So all your research will come out as to being a fact. Okay? So when you pull all your data and you gather all your information, so it becomes a fact, right? But with that fact, right, you need to turn it into observation. What is the observation that you derive from the fact? And then and then when you keep asking another layer of why, this is when the insight comes in. Okay, when the insight comes in, then only you can take the leap from here. For example, okay, I'll just give you guys an example here, right? Okay, so the fact here, we know that this is in the space of pets, right? Who owns pets here? Anyone owns pets here?
I do. I have hamster.
Okay,
Very
your
small,
hamster.
beautiful white.
Okay. Imagine your hamster. What's your hamster's name?
Mischief.
Mischief.
Yeah, because it escapes
Okay.
the cage a lot. And it bites.
Okay, cool. So, if you observe, right, in a nutshell, so your fact when you gather all these hamsters owners, right, we know that this is just an example, right? So people fed their pets, the hamsters at 7:30 and 6:30. That's the data, hard data is telling me, right? And then when it comes to my observation, right, then I see, okay, 7:30 is basically breakfast, right, in the morning, and then 6:30 is during dinner. So okay, so people feed their pets when they eat breakfast and when they eat dinner, because of course when you wake up you want to have breakfast, right? When you come back from work or class, right, you want to have dinner. So then when you ask another layer of why, it becomes an insight. Okay, so this is where you feel like, maybe, people feel guilty, you see, to eat in front of your pet, because we have the emotional connection with your pets, right? I'm sure when you eat and then kesian lah, my pets also, then we eat, okay, I feed the pets also. So that becomes an insight, right? You guys get me, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So with that, right? With that, I always set my, before I go into the ideation itself also, I set my proposition with that insight. Okay, with that insight, sometimes, it can be like, maybe one or two or three, right? So how to consolidate this insight, right? I think, this one of the tool that I use as a point of reference to take my creative lead, before I start crafting. So I use Deck of Brilliance, for most of the time, right, to get this idea generation. So say, for instance, right, I want to, okay, the product is like you said again, for a pet product, right? It's for what do you call it? A food, to feed my pets, right? So maybe I want to go into like empathize and support. So this, these two have like a lot of case study for you to see, and from there you can actually shape your thought process. Okay. So once I've shaped my thought process, right, and I've identified my approach, into developing the creative. So now I go into the craft itself, which is my product now. The ideas, crafting the ideas itself. Okay. So again, I just want to set the stage here for everyone, and I hope that I be able to crack this portion of most of designers' dilemma. Okay. Where art, the definition between of art and design. Okay, so art is a form of expression. Okay, so when it comes to design, right, design itself is a solution to a problem. Okay, so if you consider yourself as a designer, right, you need to be able to have a solution to a problem. Not, art we can appreciate. Right, if you see a piece of art, right, so when the colors and the emotions and the expression of the brushes and stuff or not, right, that reflects an expression, we'll be able to appreciate, and you put on the wall, it's nice, it's a statement piece, right, but it doesn't solve anything because it's just a feeling, right? But when it comes to design, right, it's again a solution to a problem. In life, we have a lot of problems, so as designer, our solution is we always to be able to communicate, to sell, right? So hence why, right? So what makes a bad design, what makes a good design, how you even tell the difference, right? It depends on what's relevant, like to me as a marketer, advertiser, and designer, right? Is we are a communicator. We want to communicate, we want to sell, right? The brand and the product and the services, right? So again, to paint a picture, right? So when you communicate, right, you need to be able to make relevance to the people. Say for instance, in this scenario here, right? So you be able to communicate the values to these people to buy the iPhone, right? So when you sell the idea, right, you sell the product, right, is the product, to improve their life. Why do we change our iPhone every single year?
Because you want better camera.
Yeah,
better camera. Okay, why do we want better camera?
Because
Show
you like
off.
taking selfies. To show
Why
off.
do you want to take selfies? Why do you want to show off?
Dylan likes to show off because his friends also like to show off. He likes Oh, I'm so king. No, you see my phone camera. Wow, 4 camera, Wow.
All camera out there.
Okay, that's what relevant to you, right? But what's relevant to people who uses Apple, like myself, right? Is I'm all about productivity, right? So I know that with the new technology, right? Even like nowadays, it's even faster, right? It will be able to improve my life so that I can live a even faster and more productive life. So all the tools that I need, right? So with the bigger RAM, the bigger like resolutions in camera and stuff whatnot, and like the all the tools that I can use, that's relevant to me, right? So iPhone or like MacBook and like all the Apple product can serve my life. So because it come in one ecosystem, right? So yeah, again, as this to this point, right, is people matter, because to us as a designer, right, we need to be able to create the relevancy and emotional attachment for people to join instead of just buying the product, from the brand one off. That's it. So right now, how we see, right, as a designer, right, we want people to join the brand. So again, like I said, it goes beyond just like crafting a nice visual, right? There's a lot of thought process being put into this. Okay, so what makes a good visual, right? This is the communication framework itself, right? So first, whenever I identify or even craft the or review, the design from my people, right? So first, in these attributes is important. You need to attract first. You need to bring in the viewer, right? You need to attract, give one staple focal point, right, for them to be able to like grab their attention. And then I look at like how to like intrigue, how to spike their interest, or maybe give a bit of a hint of like what's coming, or maybe like there's a promo code here kind of thing, you want to check out more, buy here kind of thing. So it depends. Again, it goes back to the objective. Depends on the objective. And last is the message itself. Again, creating relevancy to the people, right? So you need to have a directive connection to the viewer. When they see your piece of communication, right, they say, oh wow, that's me, I can relate to that. Okay, now I buy the brand, or I join the brand kind of thing. Okay, so with that, I just want to share with you guys what I did with on how I basically craft the whole entire campaign via a case study. Okay, so the first case study that I want to share is actually from Enfagro A Plus Brain Expo that I did back in 2015. I think this is one of the most experiential digital first experience to promote brain child development, right? So the product is actually Enfagro A Plus. You see the formula itself, right? And then the target audience that we want to attract is actually the mothers, because the mothers who buys a formula for the child, right? So one of the brand's the USP is basically these 4 areas, right? So they think that these components of development or child development is very important, which is they call it IMAC, right? To stimulate the brain development, right? So one is intellectual, and then motor, emotional, and communication. So when I saw this, right, and then we actually have an overarching idea of like this unlock the potential genius in your child. I think back then it's all about like what we found with the mothers, right? They are all about hey, my child is the best. My child, they challenge between mothers also. I need my child to be like super clever and smart. So that's why it's all about unlocking the potential with the 4 areas, right? So I would like to play a video for you guys, right, to just show like what's the whole thing all about.
Oh, right.
There's a sound, right, guys?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you haven't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So in the nutshell, right, what the team and me, and I did was actually to extract, from the main narrative of, unlocking the potential genius in your child, right? So to actually give its full digital first experience, So this was the 3D that we did, right? So and then actually it was realized like one to one, to the actual thing, right? We took over convention, KLCC Convention Hall 1 and 2 is the whole piece. So just imagine like Kidzania, right? But on a the bigger scale, but we are focusing and zooming our lens on the brain development itself, right? So as you can see, I also explored having the RFID tag. I think back in 2015, we are one of the first in Malaysia that actually did this, right? So upon registration, each child and mother will have the RFID tag, right? And then the mother will have a tag to their Facebook account because they want to show off their kids, being smart with experiencing all these events, right? So when they come, they will tag to their Facebook account, right? And whatever that they do here is like a tagging, live tagging. So even when take pictures and stuff whatnot, right, with our photographer, and we have like a photo booth and stuff whatnot, right? Once they tag in, and then it will come out straight live to their Facebook. So we want the first to actually do this, right? So again, in terms of like the whole journey itself, from the entrance, right? We have doctors and medical students to explain about like the inside of the brain development. So like they have stages of that, right? And then after that, before you go into the 360 brain galaxy, right? We have a simple brain booster game here. And then here was, we did a 360 projection, in the dome itself. It's about 7 minutes, the video, right? To explain about the IMAC. So then we broke it down to like intellectual, motor, emotional, and communication zone, right? So it's a force one entry journey. And at the end is your play and sales area where all the consultants will come like, hey, buy the formula and stuff or not before they exit, right? So this was the actual picture itself, right, from inside the brain zone. Just want to share this. I want to draw your eyes to the left, right? So this is where the 3D rotating brain itself. So the whole fabrication of this entire experience, we actually used 7 factory to fabricate. And I had my 3 designers to work on all the visual communication, right? I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, right, it's about 130 or 140 pieces of communication, That's why we did 7 factories, And then all the experience is all across, all the digital experience is across all the areas as well, right? So this one is like literally floating and, it's a 3D, brain. And then after that, we also had the 3D, like I mentioned earlier, right? We actually called this brain bag. So we had a hand stitch, all the bean bags, right? Personalized hand stitch, and then it reflects the masset itself, which is the brain, you see? So it's all consistent. And then before they go and immerse themselves into the IMAC zone, IMEC, right? We have these neurons, and with all the facts here and stuff on also. Right, then they'll go into their intellectual zone, right? We have a team. There's a Fox screen here, and there's a Prism, activation, for all the kids here, right? And then they have a motor zone as well. Again, it reflects back, in terms of the activities. We even recorded a genius dance step. So this one is a pre-recorded, So once you can see like all the instructor dancing here, and then the kids will like see themselves inside as well, live. And then I think my favorite piece is actually the giant piano. So there's a musical teacher that actually like teach the kid on how to play the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Actually produce sound, pretty cool. But my favorite piece is actually this one, the drone navigator. So this was back in 2015, right? So we actually introduced this drone navigator. So we have a pilot here, and then there's actually a landing pieces down here. So what the kids needs to do is just put on the headphone and then navigate through together with the pilot and to land the drone. So this huge piece is more than 40 over feet length. And then I think the height was I think about almost 20 feet as well. It's huge. So and then we also have like storytelling, and then at the same time, all the this is where the mothers will be, grabbed, from the consultants, say, hey, buy my formula. So because again, we already explained all the whys. You imagine, right? From inside the brain to the brain galaxy, we're already feeding all this information to the mothers. Why do you need this formula, right? Why do you need, your kids to be clever? Because no, with all this IM, EC and whatnot, right? So then, we also on digital, right? To create another set of, cohesive experience, digital. So we actually have a Facebook interactive game as well, to unlock their potential. So again, we map back to the IMEC, intellectual challenge, we have motor challenge, emotional challenge, communication challenge, right? So again, this is just all of this, right? It's actually the objective here again to educate the mothers and at the same time to sell the formula itself, right? So in terms of the result, yes, we've won a few awards for this. We won a regional awards as well. And then the key results here, if I were to plug, right, we had over 19,000 visitors throughout the 4 days of event, right? And then it runs about the campaign runs about 6 months, right? And then after we also had surveys being put out, right? And then we found out that 96% parents gain more knowledge in brain science, just with this activation itself. And then 99 parents would recommend brand expo to their family and friends, and then we gain over 2 million in PR just over the 3 weeks after the post event itself, right? So with that, right, comes to our next and last point, which is to sell the idea, to pitch in the idea and to perform, right? So this is where I want to share another case study that I did as well. I think pretty proud of this project, right? Why I believe that moment matters is one of the biggest challenge to pitch for this campaign was because to convince a Japanese leading brand, right, to actually buy the idea and to celebrate Hari Raya in the regional market, right? And so what we did was creating this hyper-connected campaign. So true story, okay, when I pitched this idea, right, when I want to sell this idea, what I did was I did a research about my client itself, because it's a regional campaign. So we were the incumbent agency for Uniqlo, but that time was our first time pitching in for the regional campaign, right? So the global will have a say, and then the regional market will have a say as well, right? So it's a cross-stream market. So during the pitch, right, it's a true story. During the pitch there was the country marketing head, there was the CEO. I think it's the marketing director, which is Ahmad Saleh, right? And then we also have a Japanese there as well, right? And then after at the same time, the head of design also is a Japanese as well. So imagine to be able to convince them, and make them understand about our culture and about our way of celebrating Hari Raya, right? But at the same time, you need to convince, them to understand also how not just in Malaysia, but in Indonesia and Singapore market, how they celebrate Raya. So we need to find a common ground, right? So I think it was an interesting process, right? And we came out with this idea, and I believe it was one of my proudest work as well, because one of the key things that we be able to convince them is I think it was 2 or 3 years that they didn't have any big spend when celebrating Hari Raya. So they didn't even do paper bag. They didn't even do the ampao. Usually when you buy at all the stores, right? So they will have ampao, and then they'll give you a paper bag, with the seasonal design and stuff whatnot, right? So we actually convinced them, with the idea. So the idea was, we came up with Together in Comfort and Raya in Style, right? So again, my inspiration point was straight from the family itself. So family as a unit, right? So usually during Raya, of course, when we come back home, is always, individually we have our own style, right? And Uniqlo is banking on the comfort of the clothes and the product that they have, right? So that's why to express, their style during Raya, right? And they are all happy and comfortable, in their own skin, but being in together as a unit, as a family, right? So this iteration, this what do you call it, a pattern, right, was the hardest to crack. So me and my team stayed in Uniqlo days and night with the client, right? Together with to get approval from Singapore, from Malaysia is here. We together with the client, and then Indonesia and across in Japan as well. So to came up with this, it came out as simple, but to get here, right? It's like we had I think almost R16 or R18, revision 16 or 18 to get to this, and finally, this is the final piece, right? So we combine the traditional and modern aesthetic, right? So it's like a kampung house. So how it was derived was, from the kampung house itself, right? So kampung house, they have this really unique pattern. So I pluck out the pattern, and make it into a simple monogram. So also at the same time, it reflects, the Islamic modern pattern as well, Islamic motif, right? And the color palette, why I choose the deep lake and paired together with the living coral, because during that year, right, living coral was the color of the year, and it also matched, and the deep lake was one of the hues as well, and then we did a color study between the previous years, right? These colors wasn't part of it, so actually it makes sense, to do this. And then when you go into the pairing of the new clothes, right, this color fits the whole theme, and it brings out, the whole color. So the whole clothing lines as well. So if you can see in the next slide, right, I actually designed the set to be super minimalist, right? And then this again reflects the kampung house, right? So you have your side of like being in a kitchen, so we take the hint from the kampung house punya, what do you call it, window, and then a bit of the traditional cabinet. And then in the kampung house, what I found, always this rounded shape kind of door, right? That would be the staples in the middle, right, where it connects to all the houses. And then after that, again, similarly, in all the kampung house, right, we always see this type of stairs, right, and steps, So again, this one is just a small touch of hint. And in terms of the model, and then the pairing of the clothes, and the positioning, So yeah, I just want to share you the behind the scene of the whole entire photo shoot. I think it was fun, and again, I was this is one of my proudest work as well. Okay, enjoy. Yeah. So with that, right, we also, actually did the style guide across Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, right? Again, this is all, plot and depicting, the pairing and styling. I work together with the stylist and the lead photographer and the studio, right? To make this all into reality. Again, my realization to this, right, is basically, map back to the situation in the house during Raya. Like for instance, you chit chat with your sister, at the dining area, and then perhaps you want to flaunt your new baju, right? And then you go down the stairs, and then after that, the character of the husband and wife, in between they always chit chatting, and then after that, kids always play in front of the steps. That was my rationale, right, to come up with all of this. So again, it's a lot of deep thinking happening. It's not just like you see as it is, right? But there's a lot of thought process being put into this. Like even in here in the middle, right, you can see the son and the dad, right? It's catching up, for their lost time, because only during Raya they be able to catch up. Visual storytelling is very, very important. Okay, I think we do have Q1, Q2, and 6.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Oh,
because
question.
for the interview questions later on. You're not supposed to read it out.
Okay. Okay, sorry, it's just popped out. Okay, no worries. So, moving on to that, we also developed, because from our research, right, we know that before during the Ramadan month and during the Raya, right, people, like, before they wait for their buka puasa or even like sahur, right, they play a lot of games, so that's why we developed a mobile game called Rio Run. So the part one was during Ramadan month, right? So we call it a Rio Run Ramadan Bazaar. So basically they allowed to like go, and they collect points, and then they can redeem Uniqlo voucher and shop at Uniqlo. So again, whatever that we do, we want to push to sales as well, right? And then part number 2 is basically, again, it's the Rio Run. So they want to rush back to their kampung before Raya kind of thing. So again, it's a similar setting to push vouchers for the people to buy at Uniqlo. Okay, and yes, so across before 2019, right, they didn't invest in like the paper bag and the ampao, right? So this is the story that I want to tell you guys, right? How it became, why they finally considered to invest in putting this, because it's a huge chunk of money, right? So again, why the thought process here, right? When it comes to insight, right? What I mentioned earlier, right? What we found was during Raya, right? A lot of people, when they balik kampung, right? They will buy something for their parents, they buy something for their siblings, because sense of appreciation of lost time as well. So imagine if we have this, right? So they buy Uniqlo, they buy something for their parents as well, because Uniqlo has a line of like Raya baju Raya, right? And then they have more to pair it. So this is where like a sense of gifting. So that's one. Second was the ampao. Of course, across the culture, we always give ampao, right, during our first day of Raya, right, as a sense of token of appreciation and show respect, right? But that's where we want to catch them, the brand to be at every step of their way as well. So this was very interesting. When we pitched the idea, I actually did a mock-up of this ampao, right? When we actually presented, right, I went and gave all the clients the mock-up, right? And then we actually put the money inside there as well to let them feel, right? And when you open the ampao on the side and on the flap, right, on the left and right, there's actually, we crafted a pantun also of like, Uniqlo, appreciating you, buying the product, right? At the same time, when you go back to Raya, right, you want to be comfortable and style. So yeah, so that was one of the interesting, I think, spin to win this whole project, right? And of course, across online and offline, even OOH, right? We actually did the whole entire fullscape of creative, even go down into the retail as well, right? This is just not across here in Malaysia, but it was implemented in the Singapore market and Indonesia market as well, right? And yes, in terms of the result, right, I think there's it's quite we were quite happy with the result, right? If you can see here, more than 40 nationwide stores, coverage in terms of implementing the campaign itself, and then we generated more than 152 sales, from the previous year, which is good, and then in terms of impression online, you have 12 million, 1.3 million unique audience, and then approximately about 2 million recorded in terms of influencers engagement as well. And in YouTube, right, organic, so we get 200,000. It's okay, but it was still tracking, but to date last time, right, this was when we submit for the awards itself, right? So yeah, so we won an Excellence in Digital Marketing Award in Marketing Excellence Award in 2019 as well, right? So with that, right, again, to anchor to my presentation today, right, is this is what I believe as well, right? So at wherever you are, at any stage of your life, right, is the only way, to actually know, right? Of course, to be able to experience the whole thing, right? And but to know your why, right, you need to actually live the moment. At the same time, never, ever stop learning, right? Because if you stop learning, right, that's when you fall, right? And yes, with that also you will grow. Okay. Yes, my name is Ayisy again, Creative Director for KXP. And thank you so much.
Alright, that was a great presentation.
Yes. So,
Thank you.
thanks for the sharing and talk to all of us. I believe all of us today, we definitely acknowledge a lot. So, Mr. Aish, I have a series of questions that I need to ask you. So, the first one is, how do you handle a creative execution as a professional and expert creative director?
Okay. Again, like what I mentioned, right? In terms of creative execution itself, right? The first thing that you always do, right, is to able to justify your work, right? So when you know how to sell your idea and prove it with data and facts, right, and then you take a creative leap and sell your idea to client, right? That's very, very important. So you need to be able to know the why first and connect, to your people. So by saying connecting to your people, right? Again, it depends on when you identify a product's a USP, and the product's offering, right? So then you understand the people as well, right? And then you also know the market, which is like what your competitors are doing, and you create that opportunity, right? That's where the sweet spot comes in. That's your proposition. So when you roll out your creative execution, which is like you go down to the idea, go down to the application itself, right? That whatever that you do as a groundwork, right? It will justify already, right? So yes.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Alright, what has been your biggest challenge in the digital integrated campaign?
Okay, that's a good question actually. It's a very tough question, but it's good, right? Because as of now, people are talking about digital. So it's all over the place, right? So to make it simple, right? Digital is just another platform. Okay. So even me myself, I've been in a digital platform. Digital designer for amount of time, right? So it's just a platform. So at the end of the day, right? What is important is how do you connect from the brand, right? The brand, how do you connect to your people? So you need to know where your people are. Say for instance, right, the biggest challenge is like as of now, to be able to connect these people, right? Because they are fast, new platform in digital has just come out. Like, oh, today is TikTok, tomorrow is like, oh, go back to Instagram, and then after that, like, suddenly it's like, LinkedIn is important, Facebook is important, and then digital ads, it's all basically the biggest challenge would be like to catch these people where they are at the right time and the right moment. So yeah, I would say that's the biggest challenge actually.
Question 6.
Yeah.
Dude, I already asked the last question. It's your
Okay.
turn.
So, okay. So, Mr. Shaiful, what is your advice
Yep.
to the young generation who wants to enter the marketplace?
Okay. It's a good one actually also, to be honest. Okay. I think again, right, one of the main reason that you be in this, industry, right? Of course, in the creative industries, that you want to express your passion, you want to express your creativity, right? But don't get lost in the sea of like, your own thoughts, So that's why always remember to bring back, to identify your why. Why are you doing this, right? So my advice would be, to identify the why, right? You need to reflect, before you go into the industry itself, right? So for a certain time, when you grow into the industry, you know how to navigate around, you know how your experience and stuff or not. It's fine, if you change your course in the middle of your career, it's fine. But when to enter the industry, right, you need to be able to identify, what is your true purpose. Beyond all of the what do you call it? The skills that you have, right? You need to identify your true purpose first. Are you want to inspire people with your work? You want to wow people with your work, or do you want to win awards, or do you want to what do you call it? Just continue learning, right? So that comes to my next point. Learning. Don't ever stop learning. So sometimes when you feel like, you're already the master Sifu and stuff or not, right? There are people out there who's better than you, right? So as me, as a creative director, right, what I do is I make sure that all my designers, all the copywriters, right, they are able to grow. Because when you stop growing, when you stop learning, right, that means that you stop growing. So when we work also, right, basic is super important. So I stress this a lot, right? Basic principles, and basic knowledge, right? You need to brush, from time to time, right? Sometimes, when you are out there, you are like, 5-6 years into the industry, you are like, okay, I'm the superpower art director, designer, my craft is super important, and like, I win jobs. But you can't take the leap to become a creative director because you are lacking of this a few attributes, right? People management, looking at the numbers and the performance of the agency, performance of the team, you're able to like sell the idea, kind of thing. So all of that comes into, again, learning, right? So don't ever stop learning. Yeah, that will be my piece of advice.
Wow, that's very poetic. All right, and now let's move on to our audience question. Our first audience is Tan Keng Han, and he asks, have you had any bad experience, quote unquote, troublesome clients in your career?
Okay, so I think to be politically correct on that, right? Okay, I think we are all human. Okay, again, we are all human, right? So when we treat our client as human as well, when client treats us as human, I think I know where he's coming. He or she?
I think it's a he.
It's a he. Okay, I know where he's coming from. Like, you see all this meme of incoming agency, whatever, right? They're saying that, designers like, and then the clients are hanging, from the back kind of thing and whatnot, right? Okay, so again, if you are, of course, challenging clients and tough clients that are out there, because again, you need to be able to know and to be bulletproof of your ground. Okay, do your research. Again, people, designers, do your research. If you know your clients is tough, right, go and understand the background of the client. Go and understand, like, the pain point of the client, so that you can actually, provide a better solution from them. For instance, I give you one story, okay? So I know this client, right? So when I pitched for this one huge website job, right? So it's for a global website. I wouldn't name the website. Cool. So from what I found, right, one of the key people, I know it's going to be a tough, because it's like global, and I was the only, a creative from Malaysia, right? I was supporting a Singapore, a Singapore team, right? So we went and pitched together, Malaysia and Singapore, right? So I was the only creative who's presenting, but I need to know who is my client. I know they are tough. So what I did was I actually researched a bit and, asked around, the background of the client. I just want to see whether, how to, make them tick, what sort of thing that I can hook them, So that's how I craft my work as well, to win the client's heart as well at the same time, right? So for what I know was, they are big in commercial, they are big in like photography. One of the head of design is big in photography, he has experience working in National Geographic and everything, So from there, then I got my strategy, which is I used like, big statement piece, and like, all about globalization and all about like, there's a commercial value here, and I bring about like, all the whatever approach that I use, right, is big, it's like global, it's like, with this one unity circle, it transcends into like, you see all the circle around the world, like our eyes is circle, the ring light is circle, the tree trunk is circle, when you go to Olympic is circle, right? Or this circle is a sense of unity, and then after that, all the imagery approach and comes in and whatnot, right? So I make it big because I know they are, big. So that's how I tackle difficult clients. At the same time, if I know that the clients is like messy, so I try to be proactive and organized. Again, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. Is that answer your question?
Yes. The most important thing is do the research.
Yeah.
Yes, do the research and open your mind. Be open. Don't ever like just like stuck into one thing.
Close-minded.
Yes.
Okay, so
any more
now,
questions?
yes, there are. So the question from Gauslia, as a creative director, how do you keep your team motivated?
Very
How?
simple. Very simple. Very simple. I think again, if they are able to learn, right, at every single point of their career, right, that's very, very important. So that's how to keep them motivated. Of course, incentivize, and of course, acknowledging their success and everything, acknowledging their lack of performance, right. It always will lead to learning. So if I can maintain them to actually learn, right, I think they'll always be motivated to do the work.
All right, tons of praise will keep any team motivated. I mean, who doesn't like praises, right? All right, our next question is from Troublemaker. Is that really his name? Okay, it's from Troublemaker. It's from Troublemaker.
Okay.
From the audience perspective, the approach is on one point. It matches with, I'm guessing this is unique brand identity as well. Your explanation on the thought and design process is on point. What advice do you have for the students who only present their artwork both visually and verbally as simple and clean only?
Okay, let me see if I derive the question correctly, right? So yes, from audience perspective, yep, the approach is on point, and then yes, it is on brand as well. Okay, and then the student who present their artwork, okay, simple and clean. Oh, I understand where it's coming from. Okay, so this is all it's optics, right? Okay, so when you say simple and clean, and then you show a basic shapes and clean look, right? If that's the approach that you're going, it's not, there's no right or wrong. Okay, but the thing is, to that again, you need to make relevance. What do you mean by simple? What do you mean by clean, right? So to people's eyes, simple and clean, right now, if I think about simple and clean, there's an image in my head. If I ask you as well, it's the same thing, right? You have simple and clean. This is my definition of simple and clean, right? But to be able to convey your message, right? To be able to convey your message, right? You need to make that connection to what is simple to you. To have that, right? Maybe what I would suggest is, right? Okay, I think you guys will do this as well, right? You pull out a mood board, right? Okay, this is how it looks by simple, and then after that this is look by clean and stuff or not, right? But again, going deeper than that, right? So what does this simple and clean means to the audience? So you can say the IKEA products is very simple and clean. Why is it simple and clean? Because the simple and clean, right, it matches your home perfectly. So when you put at your home, right, it can be adapted, and it's flexible enough to match the look and feel, because that's why we make it simple and clean. If that's your justification, then okay. You don't say simple and clean, and then after I show one bulat there and one petak there, this is simple and clean. I'll be like, what? Again, need to be able to justify. Yes.
Okay, so the question from Ku: does the pandemic gives a huge impact to your team, and how do you solve that issue?
Yeah, okay, definitely yes. Especially the way we work, right? Because right now I'm at home remotely as well, and my designers, our directors are all at home as well. There are times we go back to office if there's any big pictures or is there any big meetings and whatnot happening, right? In fact, right now I think half of us is at the office right now because we're preparing for our 5 o'clock big presentation to client later, right? So, but the thing is, again, there are ways, I would like to plug again, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change by Eric Gerson, right? So it does have a huge impact in terms of communication, especially, right? So there's a lot of hurdles, that happens throughout the day, and my schedule is crazily packed because, before this, what I will do is come come, let me see this. Now it's like, oh, I need to look at my calendar and see where my slot is, right? And I say like, okay, then connect my traffic manager. Hey, I have this slot. I need to review this, and then my art director or my designer will be like, oh, okay, we are free also. Okay, then okay. If not, we're not free. Okay, we need to find other times and whatnot, right? So my calendar sometimes triple book, and like double book, and it's like kuih lapis ready. How I, it looks like kuih lapis. And to them also, again, the challenge comes when there's not enough of communication, so we're not just across the creative team. I think safely say that we are aligned, right, and most stuff. But like when you integrate with other department, because our department, we have like our function and accountability, right? So we have our technology team, we have our servicing team, account that juggle all the accounts, and then we have our social team, we have our creative team, and then counterparts between like Malaysia and Cambodia, so it's across. So, but the thing is, how I solve all this issue, right? I think one of the key things that I did was, because there's a lot of components moving, so we have a tool, right, that we use to track all the projects. And in that tool, basically a CRM tool, right, to be able to track all the works as well. And then my traffic manager is doing a good job, basically, running the whole timeline, really organizing the timeline. And then I think in terms of integrating the work itself, we are very relentless to have multiple huddles during the day. So I have my weekly huddles between the team. I have my personal one-to-one huddle with all the leads, right, creative lead. And then I also have the management team huddle. I have across all the project huddles as well. So yeah, it's really, really, really back to back.
Yes. So thanks for the sharing from Mr. Ayisy.
Yep.
So looks like this is the final countdown of our last talk. We, host, speaker, and audience stay together. But still a very big special thanks to Mr. Ayisy and you, the audience, my team, whoever makes the shows works out. Farewell to you all and good luck in your life. So bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you guys. All the best. All the best.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.